Welcome to the Ask Jeff YouTube channel. Here's today's question. It says, I get sick of hearing people say, oh my G double blank. Isn't this taking God's name in vain? That's a really interesting question. And by the way, whoever submitted the question, I want you to know that I can't stand when people use that phrase. In fact, in our household, anytime we're watching anything on TV where somebody says something inappropriate, we have a response that we say. And I want you to know that my wife and I use that same response to this phrase just like we would a traditional curse word or whatever you may want to identify it as. Let's talk about taking the Lord's name in vain. That goes all the way back, obviously, to what you and I know as the Ten Commandments. And there's a lot of people that believe that a famous statement, when someone says GD, that is taking the Lord's name in vain, and it is rightfully so. But it's more than just those two words. In fact, I do believe that you can expand it even to that which was alluded to in this question. What is taking the name of the Lord in vain? It is any time that we invoke the name of the Lord for our own benefit without His permissive will. Here's what I mean by that. How many times have you heard somebody that desires something say, well, God told me? Did God really tell them? Or do they want to just invoke God's name so that it will somehow invoke His authority, His presence, and what is their personal desire in their life? That is why when people use statements that refer to the name of God or Jesus in a very demeaning way, whether it be GD or any other phrase, we call that taking the Lord's name in vain, because when you make the statement GD, you're literally saying, I am saying that God is going to send you to hell. That's what you're saying. Well, that's not your decision. And you don't have the right to invoke God because according to John chapter 5, only God knows the heart. So more specifically to this, when somebody says, oh my, and you know the rest, they go, here's what you're saying. You're responding to that situation by claiming that your exasperation or your mesmerizing or whatever it may be, or you're being flabbergasted, upset, bitter, whatever it is, you're claiming that God has the same response as you do. And guess what? That is technically taking the Lord's name in vain. So when somebody does something that is just outlandish and hurtful or whatever it may be, and someone says, oh my, what they're saying is, God feels about this the same way I do. This is not a phrase that should be condoned. It's not a phrase that should be utilized. In fact, even in our household, we try to refrain from using a euphemism. When people say, oh my goodness, or oh my good gosh, or you hear all those things, well, really what we're doing is somewhat twisting it to invoke the same emotion, but yet the same principle. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 says, let no unwholesome thing come out of your mouth. And personally speaking, I don't want to invoke the perception of or the perspective of God any way other than how He is laid out in His Word and in my personal communication with the Lord that is confirmed by His Word. And so therefore, when somebody says something or does something as a believer in Jesus Christ that is flabbergasting to you, rather than saying, oh my, you might want to change that to, why would you, or I can't believe they, whatever it may be. That way, you're invoking your response, but you're not taking the Lord's name in vain. Again, it's more than just a GD statement. It's a lot broader. And let me go ahead and warn each and every one of us. When we play what I call the God card, we want something done in life, and so we just claim, well, that's what God would want, or that's what God told me. It's really no different than this statement. Whoever submitted this question, I'm glad you brought it up, because it's one of those cultural things that is said all the time that I really do believe is not beneficial to our own personal walk with the Lord, and most likely does fall under the umbrella of taking the Lord's name in vain. If you've got a question, submit it to AskJeff.net, and hopefully your question will be tomorrow's. Thanks for being a part of today's daily question. Now, we answer a question each and every day. Please feel free to submit a new question at AskJeff.net. We may not have gotten to yours today, but we eventually will continue to be a part of this. Subscribe so you don't miss out on a question every day.